Okay, this is our last presentation today. So on RedCoat, and the goal here is we're trying to build enterprise grade security for everyone. So how many of you have gotten text messages like these? Right? These are, there's, hey, we have a package, click on this link. You have, the IRS has filing a lawsuit against you. Or, hey, there's a message purportedly from your CEO saying, oh, hey, I need these physical Target gift cards to go to the store. Can you please buy them for me, right? And so the amazing, so this is called smishing. It stands for SMS phishing. And, these are incredibly prevalent now. I think all of us have gotten multiple of these. In fact, some of them have gotten some of these today. Some of these screenshots were from today that we received. And these attacks, they've grown by 700% over the first half of 2022. 700%. Okay, so these are huge problem, right? And then not only the fact that these aren't just an annoyance. These are there's $10 billion lost annually from these sorts of attacks. And not only that, but there's a statistic that shows that only 10% of these attacks are even reported. And so the amount lost of these things are huge. Not only that, but this is about to get much worse because of the advent of generative AI and large language models. Means that if typically you look at these, there's some somewhat broken English, and they're not they're pretty easy to identify. That is going to change dramatically and become much more personalized, and they're going to be much better, right? And and then the other thing that makes this particularly challenging, pernicious problem is that these attacks come over your personal channels. So the enterprise of companies do not have any visibility into these type of attacks. Yeah, and so we need a volunteer from the audience if you guys want to just to be part of the demo. Okay, we got one. Okay, so you're gonna type in. Yeah. Or just yeah. Thanks for a volunteer. Yeah, we got a volunteer.
Trustworthy, right?
Trustworthy.
All
right.
What would you like me to do?
So this is this is just we're gonna show a demonstration. By the way, this is something.
Read off the text message.
All right.
Yeah.
So I got a text message on iOS device. It says maybe John Whaley from iOS. It says, "Hey Aaron, this is John Whaley. I have a few minutes to chat. I'll try calling you in a minute." I'm receiving a phone call right now that says maybe John Whaley. All right. Yeah.
This is John Whaley. Sorry, my reception is really bad here. I was hoping to get your feedback on my new startup idea, but I'll just send you a link to the pitch deck.
Oh, it's terrible service. So call just dropped. And I received a second text message saying, "Sorry, my reception is terrible here. Would you mind taking a look at this pitch deck?" It's a very safe link. I will click it. And I have been pwned. There you go.
Yeah, I mean, so the amazing thing is that I had nothing to do with the building of this. In fact, this is something that Mike and his team had built back in November, in about 24 hours. So in 24 hours, he built this. They grabbed a video of me off of YouTube. They extracted out the audio, and then they're able to generate a spear phishing attack, including both my text, the way that I talk and type, as well as the audio. Right. And so these attacks are happening now. Like these things are now happening. Right. And this is like due to the advent of generative AI, like these are only going to be increasing because it's very easy to do these type of attacks now. Right. And so to solve this requires fundamentally different approach, right? Like you cannot use these centralized, servers where, things like, Proofpoint or Abnormal or any of these other ones where they sit on a server, they're looking at all your emails, they're trying to interact with them, because the next generation of attacks are omni-channel. They go across multiple channels. They may start in SMS, they may jump to voice. They may then jump to, Snapchat or other types of platforms, and they're far more sophisticated. So the techniques that worked in the past will no longer work today. And so, I mean, if you look at what are the landscape of current solutions, all the ones that are out there today, they're only focusing on a single channel. They do SMS, or they do voice, or they do email, right? And they use very basic techniques. They use things like phone number blacklist. So it's like, okay, well, this suspected scammer or suspected spam. You may have gotten those on your phone, seen those before, but it's so easy today to kind of get more phone numbers, right? Or they do things like audio fingerprinting, where it's like, hey, does this sound like this person has an accent, not a native speaker? Okay, then maybe this is more likely to be kind of those kind of scams. Obviously, these are going to change, with these type of generative AI, attacks, right? And so this is where RedCoat comes in, because we're the first solution, the only solution that can go across multiple channels and also have the most comprehensive capture the most sophisticated type of attacks. Not just something that happened to contain a link, but things like CEO fraud, or other types of malicious content, because we're using large language models to analyze the content of not only each individual message, but entire conversations as they go across different services. That gives us a very unique insight. And because we do this entirely on the client, we're able to do that. We're able to do this across different types of services. So we have an awesome team. So I did, yeah. So I had two enterprise security companies very much in this space. Unify ID most recently. Before that, Mocha 5. Mike Morris here, who was VP of engineering and at Proofpoint. He was head of the entire advanced threats team there. Understands this and has built great engineering teams. Sasha was one of the very first people at Meta to work on generative AI. Marcus here is a two-time founder and product manager, and Guillaume as well has a deep experience in both software and operations research. So we have an awesome team. So let's show you the solution, and we're going to run through this like exactly the same thing that we had before. We'll show you what our system is able to determine from those messages that get sent.
Thank you. So I'm gonna play this video. So the attacker commences the attack. As we remember from the earlier example, a message was received saying, hey, this is John Whaley, have a few minutes to chat. I'll give you a call in a few minutes. And our backend is able to calculate the malicious score to be 5, and it's able to output reasons for why that's the case. For example, we have the number is not in the contacts, as well as the name that was mentioned was already in the contacts as a different number, with a different number, as well as the message sender wants to switch to voice chat, which is also a really good signal, as well as there's some sort of false urgency, using keywords such as in a few minutes, etc. And the attack continues, the attacker calls, the attacker then sends, sorry, my reception is really bad here. Would you mind taking a look at this pitch deck? And they send a Google pitch deck link. And so in this case, our backend decides that the malicious score is 9, with the additional signal being that there is a call to action for a link click, which made it highly suspicious. However, we saw that the link is a Google deck link, so the reason it's not 10 is because the link is somewhat benign. So yeah, this is our solution. We were able to prove that with our demo that we can detect cases like non-John attacks. And with that, I'm gonna give to Marcus to talk about go-to-market strategy.
Yeah, so you just saw the tech, and now we're going to be talking about the phases of how you can gain adoption through this process. So the first step is our B2C mobile application. We're going to be using a freemium model in order to collect data that'll be able to further entrench our moat to better improve protection of our users. And we're going to start off with what we call this guardian mode. And so the idea is for people like us, we're like the IT experts for our families. Like you go over, you fix your mom and your kids' Wi-Fi and their phones and whatnot. But you have to also be the one protecting them from some of these malicious scams. And so what it looks like is that you're going to start off with this family plan, and then you can have your parents, kids, or grandparents, etc., on it, and it's actually able to block this malicious content, and then you're able to receive it as a notification to see if it's worth going through. And so we'll show you a front-end demo that we've mocked up. And so the user case is that mom has gotten this phishing alert, and you get this message. And so you can open up the app, and you see that the malicious score is a 10. And you can read the message, you can call mom, or you can even see all the incoming messages from the scammer. And then you can expand that and even see to everyone else on your family account, what does it look like? So you can see the previous activity, you can see the summary of the types of attacks and messages, and the trends over time of your malicious attacks, and then also the prevention that we have from our software. And now we'll be talking about how phase one interacts with the rest of our go-to-market plan.
Yeah, I think the tricky thing about this this type of product is that it gets access to your personal messages, right? And so I think there's some challenges there around, in terms of if IT is like mandating this, it's like, hey, do I actually want my IT department to be able to read these type of things, right? This is one of the challenges there. This is why that we're going towards like a B2C type of approach where we start by just providing this as service, actually as a freemium service. The users are actually paying us, are paying us in their data as well, because our goal here is to build the most comprehensive data set around SMS and smishing messages. Other providers in the space, like the type of spam messages and phishing messages really depends on the channel. So if you try to use some type of model, from email or from other channels, that would not work very well, for this. So that we think there's going to be a very important aspect of this. And also the second goal is to build trust in the plan, in the brand and in the product. Right, because this product does get access to your individualized, personalized messages, and so like that level of trust becomes very important. And then as a bottoms up strategy, then there's clearly be able to move into businesses, because this is a real problem for companies. When you look at things like CEO fraud or other kind of where you have executives being misrepresented, things like hey, this is the CFO. Can you wire this money right away? Like this is on the radar of just about every Fortune 500 CISO and InfoSec company, as well as is going all the way down market, all the way to SMBs. I mean, even myself or like many other small business owners, they've all received like variants of these types of messages. And these are very serious, and so many businesses as well are very interested in want to solve this problem. And and then the goal there is to really help us build a data moat there, and then moving up into enterprise, big enterprises. But each of us, we all have a lot of experience in selling into these type of use cases, these type of companies. We know that it takes time to be able to do that, but we do believe that that's where like the very large market opportunity exists in terms of being able to deploy this within enterprises, and that's going to really be able to leverage our data moat at that point. So anyway, like you can scan our QR code, you can sign up. We have signed up for a beta. We actually have this working on iOS today. So yeah, it would be great to hear any of you guys' questions and around the presentation of the product.
I have a question right away. why are you doing this? This is Lennon, by the way. Why are you doing this through consumer side instead of doing it for the operators? I thought these messages are already being scanned for spamming and prevention for things. Wouldn't this be a better one to build it for the operators like AT&Ts and Verizon and others rather than doing it for consumers? Because then you're actually analyzing consumers' personal private text messages might cause a privacy and other kinds of violations.
Yeah, so there's some particular challenges in terms of carriers and others be able to access, and filter these types of messages. There's things around kind of deliverability and around, and privacy and such. That this is why today they haven't really done this. Like if you look today, you're still continuing to get these messages because the carriers are not in a good space to be able to do that. There's some recent work, but this is something that they're extremely sensitive about, and their hands are tied, honestly, on the carrier side to be able to handle this because of the rules around deliverability around SMSs, right? And yeah, so that's the primary reason there. Like this is a huge problem today. And eventually there's going to be some type of regulatory motion that's going to allow for these type of things, but that's going to take quite a long time. But these problems exist today, and so this is we think that the fastest route to market to be able to get our the data set that we need is via not only the consumers, but also small business owners and other individuals who can then start to use this for smaller groups. So yeah.
So the question from the audience was, can end-to-end encryption in messaging platforms impact any workflow?
Yeah, so that's one of the other challenges I mentioned as well. So I mean, in SMS is one thing, but if you look at WhatsApp or others, those are end-to-end encrypted. So even if Google, Facebook, or any of the other platform holders wanted to be able to solve this problem, they would not be able to, because by design they cannot see the content of the message. The only way to see the content of the message is on the actual client, which is why you need an app running on the client to be able to get it to access these type of messages. So there's no real way for any of the platform holders to solve this. And this is why you still, if you're on Telegram, you get a whole bunch of spam and a whole bunch of malicious links and other things, right? And WhatsApp and just a number of others as well, because just systematically they cannot actually solve this, nor are they kind of philosophically inclined to, because they believe that, okay, well, that's not their role. They're just the carrier, to deliver these messages. They're not responsible for their content. So yeah, one in the back.
Is it possible to run the model on the phone itself, so you don't actually have to transmit text messages?
Yeah.
Yeah, long term, we should develop a on-device solution. It's entirely possible that once the model needs to be distilled and small enough to run on device in a performant way.
Yeah, that's an excellent point, and that's the direction that we're trying to build towards. It's just that during the early phase, we need to collect that data mode and just get that intelligence.
Would insurance providers be a viable go-to-market option? Sorry. Would insurance providers be a viable go-to-market option, since they have a lot more breadth and you don't have to acquire each individual SMB or user one by one?
Yeah, I think that's an excellent suggestion. I think these are I mean, there's things we can do immediately, like just in terms of scan the QR code, sign up and you'll be able to download the app. But these are exactly the type of partnerships that, in sort of distribution partnerships, when we have to kind of build up enough of a trusted brand and enough trust there, which is kind of like that's why we're in phase one to do that. But I completely agree that these are going to be important, because these are very important I mean, even carriers. I mean, you can see, a path to where, carriers may want to offer this as, an option on a plan, for example, where like, okay, having this ability to be able to protect and filter against these type of messages as some type of add-on. There's, speaking from experience, like having spent a lot of time, working in the industry and working with carriers, they move extremely slowly, and it's, these, banking on one of those things early is like not realistic. So it will, but over the long term, like absolutely, I think that's the direction this ends up going.
Yeah, John, one follow-up question on that. So are you going to automatically not scan anything that is coming from an existing contact messages and only focus on messages received from those that are not in the address book?
That's precisely right. So like we only get access to only messages that come from, but not your contacts. So if somebody's in your contacts, we have no ability. We do not see the message at all. We only see the things that are coming from unknown contacts. Once you add somebody to your address book, then we no longer.
That makes it much easier. I think you should definitely raise that as a first point and say, because that eases the whole concern around the privacy, right?
Yeah.
Because if you're receiving a message from someone who's not in your contacts, sharing that with you and having the app scan it and share with the server that you're going to have, it's going to be much easier. But if you were to scan every message that is coming in, including the messages from the existing contact, then that would be a challenge, right? So
yeah, no,
is there a way for you to just ignore the messages coming from the existing contacts?
Yeah, but the mechanism that we use to get access to this does not allow us to allows us to get messages from the people who are not in your contact list. So it's impossible for us to actually get access to your contact list messages, like using the mechanism that you use to access through the messages app.
Awesome. Thank you.
Another question from the audience. Is this mostly for text or also images and video?
That's a excellent point. I think there was, when we're talking about the omni-channel, the first version of this, so we're targeting SMS and voice. Eventually, we do want to expand this across multiple platforms as well. But using this exact same technique, we could use this for other mediums as well. So I do imagine there's going to be, this is the way that this happens with the security, is that it's like whack-a-mole. Like as soon as you lock down one area, then like other ones pop up. And I think this has been the natural progression, as you moved across, security, where it's like, well, yeah, it used to be that the way you would attack the enterprise, attack the companies through the front door, and then that wouldn't, that stopped working, right? And then you start to add things like, okay, well, email filtering, around, proof point, abnormal, etc., right? And say, well, nowadays, like email is very locked down, right? And so now, what's the attack vector that everyone uses? The attackers use. They use things via personal channels, like via SMS and these other ones that the enterprise has no visibility into whatsoever. And so this is like just a natural evolution of attack. And I imagine the same thing is things will start moving from, okay, well, it's too easy to detect text, so let's do this via images or other medium as well. But we'll still be in the same position to be able to access those.
And one more comment from the audience. Round 2 for RedCoat is awesome.
Yeah. There's this was an evolution from, like, there was a RedCoat team that was early in November where they're building the generative version of this, like the demo that you saw. And I think this was like the evolution is like, well, this is really scary, like the fact this is possible. There really needs to be defenses for this, and so this was the evolution that came about. And I think
speaking both as a victim and also the the person that was in the round 1. So I like it, guys. Thanks.
Yeah. Okay.
Is the fish face like fishing?
What was that? Sorry.
What's the fish? The logo? The fish?
Oh, the logo fish. This is like this is the RedCoat, the red fish. So Yeah, so we use generative AI to generate this, the logo with a little fish head. So, yeah. Yeah. Anyway, that's the end of our presentation. Yeah.